One thing is certain, no one can escape the law of cause and effect. Those who sow suffering will, sooner or later, taste that very suffering themselves. And for narcissist souls accustomed to living by manipulation and deceit, the hand of God's justice never sleeps. You may have prayed, asking, "Why do they hurt me, yet remain free, happy, walking tall, as if nothing ever happened?" But the truth is that so-called freedom is only temporary. It is merely a brief silence before the storm arrives. God does not punish instantly, because he wants you to grow, to rediscover yourself after the ruins. As for them, the narcissists, they are given the chance to dig their own grave through their arrogance and bottomless greed. And when the hand of justice finally falls, they will have nowhere left to run. In today's video, I will share with you 5 fair punishments that God reserves for cruel narcissists. Stay until the end, because this truth will not only remind you that justice exists, it will also strengthen you to move forward more grounded, more resilient, and more at peace than ever before. 1. They end up with those just like themselves. There is a bitter but fair truth in this universe. Whatever one sows, one will eventually reap. And for narcissists, what they receive is not sweet fruit, but the exact reflection of what they once inflicted on others. They sow exploitation, and they encounter people even more cunning at exploiting them. They sow lies, and they themselves get entangled in webs of deception spun by others. They sow pain, and ultimately, they become trapped in relationships where every passing day brings a new wound. This is one of the divine forms of justice that God or the universe or the law of cause and effect bestows upon them. No one can escape, and no one can avoid the mirror that the Creator places before their face. Once, when you were still there, you gave everything: love, patience, forgiveness, compassion. You loved with your whole heart, even when you knew your love was unappreciated. You forgave over and over, even while carrying countless wounds inside. But for a narcissist, nothing is ever enough. In their eyes, your love was not a gift, but merely supply to drain, to exhaust. They treated your kindness as a given, your empathy as a tool to exploit. Then one day, when you were no longer there, God did not allow them to remain in emptiness forever. Instead, he sent into their lives people just like them, people who also exploit, pretend, and drain the souls of others. If once they laughed at your pain, now they are forced to drink that same bitter cup. They taste betrayal, humiliation, and being used as a tool. And the most painful moment of all is when they realize everything happening to them now is exactly what they once did to you. Yet this cycle does not end there. Narcissists often believe they can upgrade by leaving one relationship to find someone new, convinced the next person will be better, easier to control, more beneficial. But the truth is the opposite. They do not find better. They only find worse versions of themselves. The new person may seem captivating at first, but eventually the mask falls. Selfish, cruel, greedy. This is the subtle trap of karma. They are not permitted to move forward until they learn the lesson, but they refuse to learn, so they only sink deeper. You may see them flaunting new happiness on social media, bright smiles, flowery words about true love. But don't be deceived. Behind the polished photos lies chaos, arguments, suspicion. Behind the smile are sleepless nights, fear, and jealousy. Everything they once made you endure has now become their daily bread. Narcissists needed you because you were once their mirror. In that mirror, they saw themselves as important, valuable, loved. They never loved you. They loved the image of themselves in your eyes. But when you left, that mirror disappeared, and they lost their reflection. That's when they desperately search for another mirror. Yet the mirrors they find afterward are all warped and shattered. They no longer reflect a beautiful image, but expose the harsh truth, how small, weak, and insecure they really are. Worse still, these new mirrors do not just reflect, they exploit, twist, and wound them. This is absolute justice. They are forced to face their true nature through the pain inflicted by others. The irony is that narcissists despise being treated the way they once treated others. They can trample on your dignity without blinking, but when someone does the same to them, they call it betrayal, unfairness. So they live in bitterness, in endless rage. They drown in questions. Why did I meet someone like this? Why was I betrayed? But they never dare ask the most important question. Is this what I once did to others? That anger and bitterness slowly corrode their soul. It makes it hard for them to trust, to love, to ever find peace. They become prisoners of the very emotions they once sowed in others. God does not punish to take revenge. He punishes to teach lessons. But narcissists rarely learn. They deny, they blame, they run. And so the lesson repeats itself, relationship after relationship, person after person, each carrying the same message. This is what you sowed. This is what you must face. Until they dare to sit down, face the truth, admit their wrongs, and let go of the false self, this vicious cycle will never end. So when you see them with someone new smiling, showing off, do not compare yourself. Do not think you lost or that you've been replaced. In reality, you have been freed from that toxic cycle. You have graduated from the lesson while they remain stuck in the same old classroom, doomed to repeat it until they awaken. What you must do now is not wish for their punishment, but focus on your own healing journey. Because justice never sleeps. You do not need to reclaim it, it will unfold on its own. All you need to do is keep living, and live well. And that is the first justice God grants narcissists. They will end up with those just like themselves. Not so that you can gloat, but so that you will know that karma is real, justice is real, and your leaving was not in vain, it was the beginning of a cycle of fairness that no one can escape. 2. Their grand illusions are destroyed. Narcissists live on illusions. Their entire life is like a stage where they wear dazzling costumes, playing roles designed to make others admire them, believe they are great, powerful, invincible. They build walls of flowery words, perfect images, carefully staged moments, as if their life is a tale of victory and success. But there is one truth they always forget. No illusion, no matter how elaborate, can survive forever in the light of truth. And when that light finally shines, everything they built collapses like a sandcastle before a raging wave. Narcissists don't merely seek recognition, they crave absolute power in the eyes of others. They want everyone to believe they are special, the central character in every story, the one who can control everything. To achieve this, they invest their entire lives in creating an ideal version of themselves. They wear wealth, status, achievements, relationships like jewelry to cover the emptiness within. They believe that if the outside looks perfect enough, no one can see the truth. But the justice of the universe lies here. God allows them to go far, to approach their dreams, to taste the sweetness of success only so that, at the very moment they think it's secure, it is all taken away. It is in that instant, when they believe happiness is in their grasp, that the hand of justice strikes, exposing the truth they feared most. Picture a narcissist pouring everything into the thing they crave most. A position, a fortune, a seemingly perfect love. Step by step, they walk with pride, convinced everything is under control. They tell themselves, "This is the reward I deserve. No one can take this away from me." And then, when they are one step from the finish line, it vanishes. What they spent a lifetime chasing turns to dust, slipping through their fingers like a cruel joke. In that moment, they lose not only their achievement, but also their belief in the illusion of power they once worshipped. The pain here is not just about loss. The true agony lies in watching the script flip before their very eyes. The so-called success they thought they created turns out to be only a test of fate. The so-called power they thought would last forever is revealed as a temporary chair pulled out from under them at their most arrogant moment. And the so-called love they thought they could manipulate dissolves in an instant, leaving them face to face with the reality that true love never existed in their lives. A narcissist's greatest fear is not being hated, it is being exposed. When their illusions crumble and the mask falls, they are forced to face the naked truth of who they are, an empty soul, a heart that has never truly loved, an ego trembling before the light of truth. That is the moment they see themselves as small, fragile, lost in the very world they once thought they ruled. These shattered illusions are not meant only as punishment, but as a lesson. No one can build happiness on lies. Yet narcissists rarely accept this lesson. Instead of facing the truth, they blame. Instead of looking inward, they construct another illusion. They rush into another relationship, another opportunity, another stage to continue the performance. But the more they run, the more exhausted they become. The more they build, the weaker the castle of illusions, because its foundation is always deceit. And so they remain trapped in the endless cycle. Build then collapse, collapse then build, never finding true peace. The paradox is that in the eyes of the world, they may still appear successful. They may have money, power, crowds cheering them on. But inside, they are the greatest failures of all. Because the greatest failure of a human being is not losing wealth, but losing their soul. And this is exactly what narcissists experience. They trade their soul to purchase illusions, only to watch those illusions shatter before their eyes. You may have asked yourself, why do they do wrong and yet remain rich, powerful, adored? But what you see is only the surface. The truth is, when the stage lights go out, when the applause falls silent, they must return to the empty room of their own being, and there no illusion can save them. Loneliness, fear, loss surround them. They realize that everything they clung to was nothing but a hollow dream. God's justice is not loud, nor is it rushed. He patiently lets them build illusions, patiently lets them believe in false power, patiently lets them think nothing can touch them. And then, at the exact moment of their arrogance, he takes it all away. That is ultimate justice. Letting them taste sweetness before they are forced to swallow bitterness, teaching them that no illusion can replace the truth. So if you have ever suffered watching a narcissist appear happy, remember that happiness is only a performance. It will collapse because it is not real. And you, by stepping out of that cycle, are walking closer to true peace. Narcissists may live in illusions for a lifetime, but you do not have to. You can choose truth, and the truth will set you free. This is the second justice God grants them. The grand illusions they devoted their lives to will ultimately be destroyed, and in that moment they are left with nothing but the emptiness they always tried to hide. 3, they are tormented by insecurity and paranoia. Narcissists often appear before the world as confident, strong, untouchable. They want everyone to believe they control everything, that they are the center of the universe, that no one can shake their position. But the truth is far different. Beneath that mask of pride lies a soul riddled with fear and paranoia. It is not just a small crack in the wall of arrogance, but a silent earthquake, a hidden fire burning away the very peace they try so hard to stage. And this is one of God's forms of justice for them. They will never know true peace, because their minds are endlessly tormented by insecurity and doubt. If you have ever loved a narcissist, you have seen this. No matter how certain they pretend to be, no matter how strong their words sound, there are moments when their eyes betray the instability within. A narcissist cannot trust anyone, not even the person who has always loved them and stood beside them. In their minds, anyone can betray, anyone can exploit, anyone can turn away. So they build high walls around themselves, believing that will keep them safe, not realizing those very walls make them prisoners of their own fear. Imagine a life where every conversation becomes an excuse for suspicion. Turn on the TV, and they think someone is listening. Speak on the phone, and they believe someone is plotting against them. Even when sitting in a quiet room, they cannot rest, because a whisper echoes in their mind. Someone is watching you. Someone wants to take what you have. This is no longer normal caution. It is an obsession carved into their bones, leaving them in a constant state of tension. The irony is cruel. They spread insecurity to others, and then they themselves are tormented by it tenfold. They made you doubt yourself, fear losing love, live in constant anxiety because of their manipulation. But when the wheel of karma turns, they become the sleepless one, the restless one, the one swallowed by paranoia. They can never believe true love exists. Even if someone loves them sincerely, they convince themselves it is fake, a trap, a hidden scheme. And so they destroy relationships that could have been real simply because doubt corrodes their minds. This paranoia does not only torture them, it drains everyone around them. One day, they may explode in anger, screaming that you betrayed them, that you hide secrets, that you are not trustworthy. You may cry, explain, even swear your innocence, but it will never be enough. Because the problem is not you. The problem is inside them, in the fractures they never dared to heal. Narcissists live in a world of shadows, seeing everyone through eyes of suspicion. That suspicion isolates them, even in the middle of a crowd. There is a saying, peace is not for the wicked. For narcissists, it is true word for word. They may acquire money, status, power, even relationships that outsiders envy, but they never find peace in their souls. They live with smiles outside, sorrow inside, outwardly radiant, inwardly drowning in anxiety. They fear losing what they have, fear being replaced, fear abandonment, fear the truth they try to hide being exposed. That fear makes them their own greatest enemy. The justice here is clear. They suffer the very torment they once inflicted on others. When they made you lose faith in yourself, when they stole your sleep with fear of abandonment, when they filled your life with insecurity about tomorrow, the universe recorded it all. And now, they are the ones who must carry that weight for life. They may laugh, brag, pretend not to care, but when night falls and the room is dark, fear comes back like a demon that never lets go. A narcissist can run from others, can manipulate others into silence, but they cannot run from themselves. Every step they take carries the shadow of suspicion. Every relationship they build is painted gray by paranoia. And as time goes on, the fear grows larger, until it turns them into the unhinged, imagining threats that don't exist, seeing enemies even in those closest to them. That is their punishment. A restless mind, a heart that never feels true love. You may see them and think they won by leaving you, by finding someone new, by living loudly. But remember, real victory is not in outward display. Real victory is peace in the soul. And that is something they will never have. You, by leaving, can heal, can find peace in stillness. But them, the more they run, the more they are haunted. The more they hide, the more their weakness shows. The more they try to control, the deeper they sink into chaos. This is the justice God gives them. Narcissists will forever be tormented by insecurity and paranoia, not because of anyone else, but because of their own minds. And when the mind itself becomes a hell, then no matter what they own in this world, they remain the most miserable of all. For they must face utter loneliness. There is one punishment no narcissist can escape, and that is loneliness. Not the fleeting kind of solitude we sometimes feel when we are alone, but an extreme, crushing loneliness, emptiness so deep that no one remains by their side, even when they are standing in the middle of a crowd. A narcissist may build for themselves a noisy world, full of relationships, events, laughter, and constant displays of grandeur. Yet when the glitter fades, they are left only with themselves and the painful truth that no one truly wants to stay with them for long. From the very beginning, the relationships of a narcissist are never built on sincerity. They approach others not to give love, but to possess. They do not enter relationships to share, but to manipulate and control. They are not searching for connection, only for supply to feed their bottomless ego. And so, sooner or later, those relationships fall apart. For true love requires giving, and they only know how to take. When someone who once loved them finally walks away, it is not just the loss of a companion, it is the loss of the only lifeline that made them feel significant. Narcissists do not love you. They love the reflection of themselves in your eyes. When you leave, they lose that mirror, and it throws them into the abyss of loneliness. They frantically search for another mirror, another person to reflect them, to continue the performance. But the more they search, the more disappointed they become, for no one can fill the void within. The loneliness they face is not merely the absence of people, but the despair of being truly unknown. They can throw lavish parties, stand in the midst of laughter and light, but inside they hear only a terrifying silence. It is that moment when the music stops, when the guests leave, when the door closes, and they are left alone in a vast, empty room. No eyes gaze at them with real love. No hand holds theirs without calculation. No heart remains simply out of pure affection. The price of selfishness and deceit is loneliness. Narcissists push away those who love them, drive off kind souls, and destroy the relationships that could have brought healing. And when they look back, all that remains is darkness. No one wants to return. No one wants to stay. No one has the patience to endure one more time. The bitterness is that loneliness does not strike all at once. It creeps in slowly, silently, like a chronic disease. They may still believe they are loved, that people remain by their side, but over time, one by one, those people leave. The weary partner walks away. Longtime friends keep their distance. Even children and family eventually retreat to protect themselves from the toxicity. And when every embrace closes, when every heart shuts its door, the narcissist finally realizes they are truly alone. Narcissists feel loneliness, yet they do not know how to keep people. They crave love, yet they do not know how to love. They demand loyalty, yet they betray. They want patience, yet they show cruelty. And so, they become the abandoned not because the world turned its back, but because they destroyed every chance of real connection. You may think they are fine when they move on, flaunt a new romance, parade around with colorful displays of happiness. But the truth is, those relationships are only temporary. The new partner will also leave, because sooner or later they will see there is nothing there but manipulation and control. And so the cycle continues. The more relationships, the more breakups, the more times they are left behind, until finally no one dares step into their world again. This is utter loneliness when there is no one left who truly trusts, no one who truly loves, no one who truly wants to stay. They may know thousands of acquaintances, but not one real friend. They may have countless romances, but not one true love. They may boast of a vast social network, but lack a single soul connection. And for any human being, that is the most devastating pain of all. In the final moments of life, this loneliness becomes undeniable. When youth fades, beauty withers, health declines, when there is nothing left to flaunt, nothing left to attract, narcissists realize they have lost everything. Money cannot buy love. Power cannot buy companionship. Fame cannot fill the emptiness in their hearts. And then they are forced to face the naked truth. They lived an entire life without ever truly knowing love, and so they depart in loneliness. This is the justice of the universe. God does not need thunder or lightning to punish. He simply lets them taste loneliness, the same feeling they once inflicted on others when they abandoned, betrayed, and destroyed sincere souls. Now, they must endure it themselves, with no escape. So, if you ever suffered from being abandoned by them, remember, it is they who will be abandoned in the end. You have escaped. You can rebuild. You can discover true love. You can open your heart to new people. But they, no matter how hard they try, will always be pulled back into utter loneliness, because no one wants to remain with a soul that only takes and never gives. This is the fourth punishment God gives to the narcissist. They must face utter loneliness. Not as revenge, but as proof that karma is real, that love cannot be faked, that every illusion will eventually collapse. And this loneliness will follow them like a shadow, until their last breath, reminding them that no one can deceive forever, and that in the end, truth always wins. 5. Their false self completely collapses. A narcissist spends their entire life building a wall of pride around themselves. They wear glittering masks, proclaiming themselves the victor, the untouchable, the one who can control everything. Their ego is inflated like a giant balloon, brilliant on the outside, but hollow within. They survive on the admiration of others, on gazes of awe, on the applause of the crowd. Each compliment, each approving look is another brick in the castle of power they construct. But there is one thing they never expect. This false self has no foundation. It stands only as long as others keep it alive. And when truth is revealed, when people walk away, when the lights on the stage go out, that castle crumbles into dust, exposing the terrifying emptiness inside. Throughout their lives, they cling to the belief that they are more special than everyone else. They believe their charm, their intelligence, their strength set them apart and above. But in reality, they are not special at all. Their so-called greatness is nothing but an illusion woven out of manipulation and lies. They paint a perfect image of themselves to hide the wounds they never dare face. But the justice of the universe is clear. What is not real cannot last. Eventually the mask falls, revealing the face they fear most, the face of weakness, fragility, and unhealed pain. Their false self collapses not because of anyone else, but under the weight of its own deception. One can deceive the world for a time, but never forever. Narcissists are no different. They may convince others of their dazzling image, but time always exposes the truth. Admirers begin to see their real nature. Lovers begin to recognize the exploitation and pretense. Layer by layer, the masks are stripped away. Relationship by relationship, the scaffolding falls. And with no place left to hide, the false self they clung to disintegrates in an instant. That moment is the harshest punishment of all. Because narcissists never live authentically, they are unprepared for truth. They exist only through the eyes of others. Without reflection, they panic. Without admiration, they are empty. Without control, they are lost. This is total collapse inside and out, image and soul all at once. Perhaps once they had wealth, power, applause, but when the wheel of fate turns, those things vanish. Wealth can be lost overnight. Power can be stripped in a single moment. Reputation can be destroyed by one exposed lie. And when they lose those things, they realize their ego was nothing more than a soap bubble, shiny for a moment, then bursting into nothingness. The universe's justice is this. God lets them taste glory before taking it all away. He allows them to stand on the mountaintop, only to bring them down at their most arrogant, their most certain, their most proud. Because nothing built on falsehood can endure. And the collapse of the false self is the moment they are forced to face the truth that they have nothing left. Picture someone once standing in the roar of a crowd, basking in applause and admiration. Then one day, no one remains. The clapping stops. The admiring eyes vanish. Everyone turns away. They look around in confusion and realize they're alone. But they lack the strength to face themselves. The false self they clung to crumbles, leaving an emptiness they cannot fill. And that is the most terrifying loneliness, not being without others, but being without oneself. Narcissists always fear exposure. Yet what they do not know is that exposure could bring freedom. If they dared to accept truth, to face their wounds, to live authentically, they could find healing. But most narcissists refuse. They choose instead to craft new masks, to build fresh illusions, hoping to deceive again. But the more they build, the harder the fall, because justice never forgets. Deception never withstands time. Sooner or later, they must face it. Their false self no longer exists. This is the final and ultimate punishment. When a person loses everything they once clung to, wealth, power, fame, admiration, they must face themselves. And for narcissists, their own self is the most frightening thing of all. For inside, there is nothing but emptiness. And that truth, once revealed, is the heaviest burden they will ever bear. So if you have ever suffered because of them, if you have felt broken by their cruelty, remember this: justice always exists. The false self they once flaunted, the mask they used to trample you, will ultimately collapse. Not by your revenge, but by the law of cause and effect. Not by your fight, but by the universe's patience in bringing truth to light. And when that truth finally arrives, They will have nothing left to hide, nothing left to boast, nothing left to cling to, only a shattered ego beyond repair. This is the justice God gives the narcissist. Their false self will collapse completely. Not so you can gloat, but so you can understand that truth always triumphs, that falsehood never endures, and that justice always waits for the right moment to reveal itself. Looking back on your journey with the narcissist, you may have once asked yourself, does justice truly exist? Will they ever pay for what they've done? The answer is yes. No darkness can hide from the light forever. No lie can stand the test of time, and no false self can survive against the law of universal justice. Narcissists may go far. They may achieve outward success. They may even convince you that they are happy. But it is only a temporary performance. The truth is, they must face punishments no one can escape. They end up with people just like themselves. They watch their grand illusions crumble. They live tormented by insecurity and paranoia. They fall into utter loneliness. And finally, the false self they built collapses completely. These are not only punishments, but reminders from God. No one can deceive forever. And justice always waits patiently for its time to speak. For you, the one who was hurt, the most important message is not to hope for their punishment, but to trust that justice has come, is coming, and will continue to come. You do not need revenge. You do not need to torment yourself. You do not need to live in bitterness, for your leaving was already your victory. The moment you stepped out of the toxic cycle, you cut off the loop they could never escape. You chose the light while they remained trapped in their own darkness. Remember, justice does not always arrive in the way we expect. Sometimes it comes quietly in their sleepless nights. Sometimes it lives in the suspicious eyes they can never escape. Sometimes it is in the silence of those who once loved them now walking away. And sometimes it is the vast emptiness inside their soul, an emptiness no wealth, no power, no fame can ever fill. For you see the painful experience as an awakening. God allowed it not to destroy you, but to make you wiser, stronger, more discerning. The narcissist was only a catalyst in your journey, so you could learn to love yourself, to recognize your true worth, and to find your path to healing and peace. So lift your head high. Leave the past behind. Believe that you are worthy of real love, of peace, of a life where you are truly yourself, no longer manipulated, no longer drained, no longer bound by pain. And whenever you doubt justice, remember this. Narcissists may wear many masks, but in the end, all of them fall. They will be forced to face themselves, and you will not. You have moved on. You have risen. You are free. Let that freedom be the living proof that justice exists, that light always triumphs over darkness, and that you, not them, are the one who truly wins.